The topic today is going to be about the place label command and the ODOT quantity tab. And I'm going to start us off with talking about that. And I have a couple other things that I always like to throw in at the beginning so that we all keep learning. But I'm going to invite Alissa Loberg after I show you the basic functionality. Alissa is going to take us through a use case and how she envisions using the ODOT Quantities tab and those commands and using it with a design project to estimate quantities. And I expect it to generate a lot of interest and perhaps questions, comments. So I want you to all remember that your chat is available. We'll try to keep an eye on chat when we pass things off. Before I get started on today's topic, I want to remind everyone, especially our external partners, that ODOT has changed platforms from version 2023 to version 2024, and we've updated the workspace. If you are an external and you want more information about that, I would invite you to go to the East website, go to the Oregon DOT Workspace and Updates page. It's in our Updates group on our landing page. In there is a section talks about when our current platform was adopted, what it is, and there's a section for consultant partners. I have added the text of an email, and there's also an image or three in there. This was an email that was sent out from our senior automation engineer, Gary Holman. It was sent to as many consultants as he had email addresses for. I believe we're still waiting for the ACEC group with ODOT to set an actual date for adopting the new platform with new projects. But if you want to read about how ODOT's change to the new platform might affect you if you are doing work for ODOT, take a look at this email. If you didn't receive it, it's right here. And you can always contact East or Gary Holman if you have questions. There's some tables in here that kind of explains when you might choose to update, whether or not the product will function, all of that. All right, today we are going to be talking about a couple of new things that I have put on the East PDF list. In the East PDF list, following our upgrade, I've made a workspace update. So the workspace updates PDF has been modified to have the changes that were provided with the V2024 upgrade. And some of those changes are in the design libraries that deliver levels and element templates and text favorites. So the changes, we have 42 new Q levels for quantities. We're going to show you how to use those today. You don't have to necessarily pick a level off the list. You don't even have to pick an element template off the list. But this information about what got added to the workspace is here in a clearer picture. And there's also a usage document over in, let me find it here. There's a section, I'm zoomed in a little bit further. There's a section on the left-hand side that talks about annotations, tables, cells, and text and patterns. The bottommost one says using ODOT quantities to place label. And if you want to just a quick little how-to, you can open that up and it takes you through an example of labeling the length of a line. So, and the mouse clicks that are required. I'm going to take you through that as I demonstrate how the tool actually works in MicroStation, and I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to launch MicroStation without ProjectWise. When Alissa does her demo, she's going to use data that's in ProjectWise. So we'll see that. I have created a brand new file. I'm actually going to open that file. It's called webinar.dgn, but you want to make sure if you're launching without ProjectWise that you choose a custom configuration and that you choose the Oregon DOT ODOT from the recent work sets couplet so that you load our workspace. I'm going to open up that webinar DGN. It should load very quickly. I think there's like one thing in this. Oh, there's nothing in this. Now, I'm going to place a border off of a ribbon workflow, and it's an ODOT ribbon workflow called ODOT Plan Sheet Creation. That's where I know I have sheet borders, and I'm just going to place an 11 by 17 border. This will give me an idea of what 1,700 feet looks like, so that I'm drawing things that are a realistic size. I'm just going to place that border cell in my view, and I'm going to fit my view. So there I've got an area to work in. The new tab, Ribbon Workflow and tab, is provided in the Ribbon Workflow list. It's called ODOT Quantities. And Alissa is going to show you the ODOT Quantities Ribbon Workflow. I'm going to show you actually how to use the regular command, which is the reason why we created this quantities ribbon for automating the tools. So I'm going to show you the command off of the annotate ribbon. What we have automated on the ODOT Quantities ribbon tab is the use of the place label command, so that you do not have to manually select place label, pick a cell off the list, pick a dimension style. All you need to do when you run a command off of the ODOT Quantities ribbon workflow in that tab is to choose to start at the terminator. This will be very important. Start at the terminator, and you get to choose whether or not you want to create an association to the element, so that if the element changes in the future, the property of the lineal foot or the square foot area updates along with that. I tend to use it with that association to the element checked on. So that's how I'm going to use the place label command. I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you a little bit about place note in just a second. So on the ODOT Quantities tab, ribbon workflow is a tab called Quantities. When I choose from the place lines and shapes group, I've got some lines on the left-hand side and shapes on the right. I'm going to choose a line of barrier. I've got tall and I've just got regular barrier, and it takes me into a place smart line command, and I can place a smart line, and I'm just going to place a line, and then I'm going to make a rounded vertex with a radius of 50 feet. And what it's going to do is it's going to make this, sorry, I'm going to zoom in here. It should make this, I zoomed in too closely. There we go. Sorry. It makes that vertice into a rounded vertice. I just wanted to show how I can place a run of barrier, whatever. I'm going to reset. And when I select this, it tells me that I have a complex chain. So these commands work really well on complex chains. They also work really well on your base elements, a line, an arc. So if I just have a line, let me pick a guardrail, line of guardrail, type 2A guardrail, and I just draw a straight line without rounded vertices. I can pick a straight line and it draws that line. I want you to notice a couple of things when I choose a command off of the place lines and shapes. When I choose a command like a saw cut for asphalt, the tool settings window changes. I'm actually executing a command, and the command is place smart line. I'm getting prompts in the lower left corner that tell me how to operate the command. This command uses the active attributes. So one of the things that happens when you select one of these tools is that the active attributes are set. So you have an active element template set and you have an active level set, and the element template in all cases says use the bi-level symbology for the level. You can change that, but it sets it up for you to use the tool really quickly. So I've already placed, I haven't placed my saw cut. Let me place some saw cut here. Just a straight line. So I've got 3 things. And let me place a shape as well. I'm going to place a concrete island, and I'm going to place, notice it takes me into a place shape command. It changed the level, it changed the element template, which changes the color of my island that I draw. So these are all on different levels. Now I can run my label command. Watch what happens when I choose to label. I'm going to start with this barrier. So I'm going to choose barrier text, just regular concrete barrier. And I'm going to make sure that I choose with a leader, which is already chosen. My start at, I want to make sure I start at my terminator, and I'm going to make a relative, an association to that element. Now, the place label command requires 2 mouse clicks to run. It's required. The first mouse click, it's very important that with your first mouse click, you are selecting the element that you want to pull the quantity from. So I'm going to make sure that I select with AccuSnap, maybe on the end, or I could use a different AccuSnap snap. I can change that to midpoint. I could change it to nearest, and that allows me to have a yellow X anywhere along this line. And I select it. That selects where the terminator is. It also selected the element, and now when I move, I see that there's a value in there, and on my next mouse click is to place the label. And then I'm actually done with the command. Now, if I wanted to place one for this asphalt, I would just saw cut. I would choose the text for saw cut, asphalt. First mouse click is yellow X, it's on that line, and then I place the label. Very, very easy. If I wanted to do the shape, I'm going to choose my island, concrete text. Again, I want a yellow X, and I can place that label. Wow, that's a lot of square footage. What's nice is if I change the size of this, the value updates because I said to use relative. Now, I want to show you that there are some generic text favorites that you can use for whatever you'd like to use. If you have something else that's not on this list, I'm going to go to the Annotate tab and show you the Place Note command. The Place Note command, I'm going to make the text editor smaller so that I can see the tool settings window. You'll see that the Place Note command, which I'm really not in yet, it defaulted to Place Callout. I don't want Place Callout. I want to use Place Note. What's the difference? Place Note has a leader. I want that leader. I choose the Place Note command, and I'm hoping you'll realize that this looks an awful lot like the Place Label command. It has a start at, which needs to say start at the terminator. This Place Note command with the leader requires 2 mouse clicks again. So I want that first mouse click to be on the element that I want to measure the property of. And I can choose to make it have an association to that element. So I've got Place Note. Now this is just a regular text editor, but inside here, under the text favorites, I've got some _Q generic text favorites. I'm going to choose this _Q area, and it populates the text editor with that field of the element property of area. You can edit the item, that's the dumb text, to read whatever you'd like. I can read, I can say it's going to be bid item, whatever. And then you just need to follow the prompts. It says to define a start point. This is where the terminator is. So I'll left click there. And I need to finish up with the second mouse click to place the label. Place Note differs from Place Label you can see in the type of leader that's drawn. We have the standard curved leader from the place note, but the place label command can only place straight leaders. There's no curves. You cannot make place label put a curve in that leader. So this is just another additional enhancement that was added to the workspace, where you've got these generic text favorites that you can fill out however you want. So I could say, well, let's see, let's change this. I'm just going to delete that. I could reset. I'm going to choose a length, and I can't remember what it was that I placed over there. So I'm just going to say this is an oops, I double clicked to select everything, and I ended up deleting my text favorite. So I'll just put it right back again. I'm going to use my home key to get to the front, and I'm going to say this is an unknown item. I don't know what it is. Oh, I picked the wrong text favorite. So let me insert the text favorite again. I want length. So I have an unknown item, and I'm ready to identify the endpoint, place my unknown item, which is 409.2 feet long. So that's how you can use these generic ones, which I think you're going to really like the quantities tab. Now, I think I've shown you everything I wanted to show you about the basics. Let me double check. Yep. I would like to stop sharing. I'm going to pass the share to Alissa, and Alissa is going to show us a use case of using this with actual project data.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, Lenny, thank you for showing that. With this new update, quantities are always a task that we have to do. So working with you, we looked at how we would use these tools. And I want to point out that I am actually in OpenRoads. I am not in MicroStation. So this does work in the OpenRoads, and it also works in OpenSite, correct, Lenny?
That is correct.
Right, yeah.
And so, I didn't show them, but those feature definitions for the linear pieces were added to OpenRoads. Yes.
OpenRoads, and that was the one thing I wanted to mention, is that there's actually additional feature definitions to assist in getting these quantities. Now, the first thing, this is a usage case. So when I'm doing a project, I consider a couple things. Is one, I have two options for a quantity file. I can create one file that I maintain throughout the life of the project, which means I would have to go in and update the areas and the lengths if I make design changes, right? And that might be something more I would do in a larger project, where making a new file, which would be option 2 for each milestone, would take a long time. And so the changes might not be as large, and so you could update the option 1 file and just continue it through the project. Smaller projects, the one I'm going to show you, is probably where I would do options 2, where I would just create the shapes and the lines at each milestone. And then I kind of have a record of how it changed as well. So either option's fine. If you wanted to do another option, these are just kind of the two that came about in discussion of this, of how you do handle milestones and quantities. And so it's up to the designer. There is no right or wrong, but kind of make a plan, and stick to it. And each project's going to be different. And then also put up this is a little PDF of what was added in terms of it. You kind of went over this. We have linear, so we have the barrier. This is kind of a list of everything under there. And then we have the areas or shapes that we often get quantities for: driveways, islands, sidewalks, truncated domes, guardrail lengths, and there's transition and terminals in there because we're always separating those out. Saw cut, there's now 2 different options, concrete and asphalt. And then your different types of curbs. And that's coming more from an urban jobs, where you often might actually change a curb as you come through a ADA ramp. You change the curb and gutter, and then you might go back to standard, or you have a mountable versus low profile. That's how we kind of develop these, is so that we can quantify those, because in a plan they all look the same. They're all the same line style. Okay, so to start, this is just a single file. This would be one, maybe I continued all the way through, or maybe not. But you start with a 2D file. You reference in, and because this is linear and shapes, the activation of the surface terrain is not needed, so you don't have to have that 3D managed model. I've referenced in my container file, my geometry container file, because I have it all drawn out in geometry. You can also do that with corridors. So as the designer, you reference in the files you need to show your lines. And so I've also taken the level display, and I've turned off the levels that aren't needed, your numbered levels. Maybe you have some cross-section levels, etc. So I just want to display the 2D view of my design. From there, well, there's two things. So we're gonna go over our curb lines, and then I'll do areas for driveways. So there's two ways. First is we start with on the geometry tab. So we're not even in the quantity tab yet. We're in the geometry, and because all of my lines are drawn, if I select, it lets me select. Okay, these are all potentially complex elements, linear geometry that I've drawn from my geometry file in my geometry file. So what I want to do is
you have one feature that you drew like with OpenRoads, but it's like for where the gutter is.
Mm-hmm.
But
Correct.
You need to identify which part of that is just curb, which part of that is curb and gutter, and which type. Is that that's why
correct?
You're going?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. So in this case, it's a standard curb up until the curb ramp. Then it switches to curb and gutter around the corner, and then switches back to standard curb to continue on with a bulb out. And so in geometry, it's one solid line because I modeled off of that line, right? So I need to break it apart is the idea. And so to do that, we'll come down and I select the feature definition of the item. So let's do the curb and gutter. Standard curb and gutter. This will draw geometry lines on those new levels that you created. We're going to offset. We're going to use a single partial offset. And I'll zoom in a little bit here. We're going to use the drawn reference geometry. We're going to select it. And note that up in the offset, I have 0. And that basically draws a partial offset over the top of this line. So I select it. You can see underneath I'll snap to this first ramp line. I'll continue it around the corner, snap to the second ramp line, accept it, and now it's drawn over the top, but now I have this element that is on the curb and gutter standard, and it's in this file. Okay. So let's do also just the standard sidewalk, standard curb. Same thing, we'll do partial offset, select the original line again, but from this one, we're going to snap to the end of the ramp, and I'm just going to run it to the end of this reversing curve bulb out. Okay. So there is the standard curb.
That piece at the beginning, is that also standard curb?
It is also standard curb. I was just going to do these two pieces, but yes, you would also, we can do it real quick.
Yeah.
In the beginning and go to there. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So now use your level to turn off the reference display. So now we have lines in this file, right? But unfortunately, to label the length, because the ultimate goal is to get the length of these lines, right? The quantities tab or the quantities labels, they don't necessarily like the complex element, right? So we have to make this a complex chain. And to do that, the first thing we want to do is we want to set our element selection, our element, because right now I have it on standard text. It's going to, if I we're basically going to decomplex this and then just chain it together real quickly. If I do that, it's going to change the level, and we don't want to do that. So I will set, I use the quantities. I come up to the quantities. I want standard curb. So it'll change it to the standard curb
That was
level.
curb and gutter.
Oh, sorry,
Did you
you're
want
right.
Standard curb.
There we go. Standard curb. Okay. So now I can go back and just decomplex it, which is on the geometry tab. It's drop complex status, right? So I would drop complex status of the standard curb lines. And so I'll hover, highlight, see it says complex element. I select it once. I come off of it. I select it twice. And now if we check it, it is just complex elements.
Just basic elements, yeah.
Basic elements, that's right. This one is already, nope, it's a complex element. We got to drop the status. 1 click, 2 clicks. And then with this, you don't have to hit drop complex status multiple times. It stays in the command. So you just double click once, click twice, and it's done. From there, we'll
you're gonna decomplex or drop complex on the dash one.
I will when I change the level. So we're doing standard curb right now.
That's right.
If I don't, then it goes to standard curb.
Okay.
So it's okay. You pick one item at a time. Just come back to the create complex chain command, which is up here. I select the first one, and then the direction. I usually pick the next one, and the direction. It's on manual, automatic. Sorry. Pick the next one, and then it finds them, accept it. This one's already just a line. So now we have a complex chain. Now we can label it. So come to the quantities tab, pick our label, this is a standard curb text. Everything's set like Lenny, like you described. Check it. You want to make sure this is the one that takes a minute. You have to make sure that yellow X is there and it highlights it. If you don't, if you just pick out in space, it will not select the element. So we're going to attach to that end. I now have a label, and I can place it off to the side. So that is how you get the label of the elements, or the sections of the feature that you have drawn. Do the same thing for.
Go ahead and do the other standard curb piece.
Okay.
Had you draw it, you might as well label it.
Right. So make sure it's highlighted, and then you can stand it. And so it is now labeled. So you can then take this distance and throw it in your spreadsheet. So now we're going to go to the curb and gutter. So curb and gutter standard. Quickly change to geometry, because you can get the drop complex status. Drop it twice. Okay. Now 2 elements. There's a little piece there. Chain it really quick. In this one, I would do I would do manual, because it's just 2 pieces. You don't want it to include the other section of curb. So select there, left click off out into space, or right click to accept, and it is now an element. Double check it. Everything looks good. It's on the curb standard level. And then now I can annotate it with the quantities annotation. Standard text, same scenario, make sure it highlights. This time we'll do midpoint of the arc. So I have the toolbar out. You can pull the toolbar out and place your snap mode out here. To me, it's a little easier. Select there, and then the standard curb and gutter is off to the left. Now, the advantage of this, if I'm looking only for standard curbs, I can come in here and I say, I don't want curb and gutter shown. I want to see only standard curb and gutter, and I can turn them off. So this is a way to check you've got the right item types. So this is for linear items. Now, you can also draw basic geometry and label those as well. So as long as they're not a complex element, you could label it. So I'm going to turn on my reference file again.
So the steps that you went through were because you had complex elements.
That's right.
And we can't label those. So you went through the steps to drop their complex status and then chain them up. Perfect.
And that's something you and I talked about looking into to see if we can update that scenario, but we didn't have time. So this is the work process at the moment. Yeah. So for say this line, it's a other curb. It would be it's a standard curb, but say we're going to call it a low profile curb instead. It's a different curb than the radius curb. For this one, you can, because it's a line, it's not a complex element, you can just draw using the feature definition over the top, just like that. And then just annotate that
instead of using the partial offset or with the zero offset. Now, I know the question's going to be out there, so I'm just going to ask it.
Yeah, do it.
How come you don't just copy it?
Oh, good question. Okay. The way the files are set up, that if you copy an element that is created in OpenRoads through the geometry command into another file, and say you're using OpenSite, it will change your file to an OpenRoads file, and then I believe that you have to align them.
Yep.
And that is not bueno for OpenSite users.
Exactly.
It's not good. And so we're trying to avoid copying the lines so that doesn't happen. Construction. Right. A lot of construction users might be using OpenSite or other disciplines besides roadway. So we don't want to encourage that file swap, basically.
It'll just turn into a support issue because right after you exit your file, you won't be able to edit it anymore if you're an OpenSite user. So make sure that you are using that offsets and tapers command or drawing your own line over the top of it with OpenSite. Yeah. So
you're just using the reference to look at after a while is what you're doing. So this is just showing this line. It's just a simple element line using the geometry commands. So it does have rules on it. You can see the rules.
It's not a complex element.
It's not a complex element. That's right. So, but these will label. And I'm just going to pick a label. I'm not sure if that's the right one, but something different. Again, you want near snap or mid snap, in snap, intersection snap, but be careful with that one because you want to make sure it highlights it's highlighting the line, select it, and then off to wherever you want to place it. So now here's a quick note. This is a linear geometry line. If you find you've changed your design, so I'm going to turn back on, and I now need it to go maybe back here. If I move it, it will adjust the text. So that's the advantage of this place label, is now you can edit your quantity lines to match your design. Okay. So that's quantities for linear. And
you have a question.
Sure.
So Alex, you got your hand up. Can you unmute?
Yeah. I was wondering about, you're switching between your snaps between like endpoint, midpoint, those type snaps. If you just stuck on multi-snap, like the little box square, is that going to still pull that yellow X, or do we have to switch back to like just pick one?
So with the snaps, when you go to use them, right? You can do it's a intermediate snap. So I have it set on key point snap. I can set it on multi-point, but you can select it once and it highlights it and it switches to that one. So if you have trouble, you can use the multi-snap one, but oftentimes I have trouble. It wants to do intersection instead of endpoint, or it doesn't get the radius right. So if you click once, it will only do endpoint, or if I click midpoint, it'll only do midpoint until you left clicked in it and accept it. Then it goes back to your multi snap. Okay. So And that
Let me
works.
I
give you
wasn't
one
sure if
more.
I could use hotkeys or anything like that to kind of pull up the nearest and other things to like place it wherever I wanted it with my multi-snap
Typically, you
already
can.
selected.
Typically,
Okay.
you can. Yes.
Yeah.
It's just a temporary change. Yeah, it's not a
Mhm.
problem. There is a query in the chat. Does that same branding issue occur using the transform copy command? Okay. The question is, it's not about branding. It's about civil schema that's copied to the file. And if you use if you use the copy element command or the transform copy command in OpenSite, it will treat that geometry correctly, and it will not add OpenRoads schema to an OpenSite file. So yes, you can do that. But this is the best method overall, just drawing your own quantity graphics over the top, either using place feature for your linear stuff or use your offsets. That will keep you from accidentally, using the microstation copy. And by the way, merge into master is the same as a microstation copy. So, yeah.
Yeah, just on the transform, you want to make sure it's not a complex element too when you do that, because the labels won't. That's the.
But you showed them how to deal with the complex element.
Yeah, so you'd still have to drop it. Yeah, so you could transform it in, but you'd still have to drop it.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we have our linear labels now. I'm just gonna move this guy up out of the way because he's kind of in the way of our next. So the next topic is areas. This is kind of a good example. I have the two intersections, some sidewalk and some driveways, right? And sidewalk and driveways always run into each other. And in the past, I don't know if folks have done this, but I've drawn around my driveways. And if they're on a curve, then I have to copy the lines. I have to edit them. I have to create a shape. Then I have to put a text label in there. And all of that can be very tedious and brain consuming. So we've set it up to where we're going to do driveways. In this case, I'm going to select the driveway concrete under place lines because I want the level correct. But then I'm going to come to the home tab. So I have a couple driveways. I have one right here. I have one here. There's 5, I think, in here. So I'm going to do.
Can I tell them the overall goal is?
Sure, please.
Those shapes, all of that information is attached as a reference. You're going to end up with graphics that are in the quantities file. Correct. That you will label. And so we don't have to see the reference anymore. So correct. You're going to show them how to create the graphics for the shapes in the quantities file.
Correct. Thank you. Yes. So I've set my level, driveway concrete. I am going to use the create region command. We are going to flood it. And then we want to keep the original. And there's a reason for this. Actually, I'll turn it off just to show what happens when you try to not use it. Also, I've turned on dynamic locate area that shows you the area it's going to draw a shape in. So let's pick this driveway. If I select this one, it's going to place a shape. You see the purple shape. If I select the one next to it, if the keep original is not on, and I start doing this, I lost a shape. See how it switched the shapes? Because it's trying to edit those originals and get rid of them. So keep original, keep the shape. And you're thinking, oh, that's a lot of little shapes. It's okay. Come over here, do the same for this one. This driveway as well. And I'm simply left clicking in the shape.
So instead of using a place shape command and snapping to corners, you are using this create region to create a new shape in this file.
Shape. That's right. Okay. And the reason is it works really well around curves like this. I don't have to worry about the radius. I don't have to try to guess what it is. I'm just coming in and creating these little shapes. These are all areas part of the driveways, right? So there's my 5 driveways. I will turn off the reference, just display it off. So now I have these shapes. I'm already on the right level. I'm going to use the create region command again, but first I'm going to select the individual driveway shapes together in a selection set, create region, turn off the keep original, and select union, and you will see it highlight them all. And if I left click to accept, I now have a solid shape around that entire driveway. Next
And the
one,
reason for that is if you use the label command when you have all the small shapes, it will individually label each small shape.
correct.
But you want to be able to label
Mhm.
the entire driveway. Yeah.
The entire driveway. That's right. So same with this one. We're just going to create the regions. It's literally taking 5 seconds. I now have shapes that I can label. Move to the quantities, select driveway concrete. It's very similar. You want to, like we said, you want to make sure it snaps. This time I want to snap to the middle of the back of the, because I want to pull it up there, concrete driveway. Select the snap, highlight yellow X, concrete driveway. Back. It's very simple. And the shapes are there. And so we do a double check, select this shape. You have the properties on the left. You can see the length doesn't really, but the area. This is the area it's pulling from, 151.56, 151. So that is correct, looks reasonable. This one's a little larger, so it makes sense, 228. So you can keep an eye on your shapes. Now let's say we have a driveway that, oh no, it's reinforced, and I don't have a reinforced shape up here. Well, it's very simple. You can come in, double click on your text, and you can label it. You can add
To the dumb text area.
to the dumb text area what you need to identify for that shape, so that when you come back into this file later, you see what it actually is. Now it's on the same level as the regular driveway, and maybe that's okay, maybe it's not. If you want to change that level, you can change the level. I'm going to clear my filters. Come over to the level, say I want it on a separate driveway, and there are many other levels. You don't have to pick a Q file or a Q level. You can come and do the cross section. I believe there's a concrete driveway cross section level. And
You're
so
just
now,
trying to provide level separation.
level separation. That's right. And so now it'll turn off. So you only see the regular concrete. So that's a way to change or add if you have a special element that you need to track. That's not in these initial shapes that we have.
Okay, got just a couple of comments.
Okay.
If we can, let me, so there's a question and it says, in simple terms, this process requires tracing every measured line from a referenced file. So the answer is kind of. You will notice in simple terms, we're trying to get all of the lines that are being labeled for quantities to actually live in this quantities file. One way to get that line work to live in here is to just simply trace over the top using regular microstation commands. That place line string command that I showed you could be used to trace over the top. And that's fine in the small region, but if you have a lot of things, and maybe those things started their life as OpenRoads features, that's this, what Alissa is showing, that case example of how to be more efficient with getting that line work in. So it might be easier. You'd be tempted to copy. I don't want you to copy, but you can use the offsets and tapers command if you need to, place a new alignment over another alignment, linear geometry. Use that offsets and tapers with a 0 offset. You get to choose where it starts and stops. The end goal, though, yes, is to get graphics that are not complex elements into this quantities file. Yes. Hopefully that answered that. There's another question, is this process for quantities the same if your design line work is coming directly from your corridor models? Yeah, it can look the same because what is fleshing out your corridor models are linear elements. So you can, and that's actually where this curb and gutter line for Alissa, it came from a model. It's not coming from a terrain. Did that come from, but
It's
she uses geometry.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. We have linear geometry that's drawn in corridor files as well. Absolutely. You could be using that linear geometry. Yes, you could. There was one other point. Somebody said, I think it was a private message, that this looks a lot like item types. Just wanted to let you all know. That is where this is going. Adopting item types is going with reporting. We want item types with reporting. That's going to take some time to be deliberate about it. This was a quick hit, made it simple for non-OpenX users, made it simple for construction to also use it. So that's why we kind of did this stopgap thing with the quantities tab. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Alissa. Keep going.
Yeah, the last example is how to get a sidewalk areas when the color is going to be the same. Because there are a couple, like the walk concrete level is red, and it would be hard to see over the top doing all these shapes. And so if you pick walk concrete, we go back to create region. We want to flood it. We want to keep an original, like that. But in this case, if I was
so when you're using
this,
flood, you're using keep original. Flood, yes. Keep original. Okay.
Original. Union, remove original.
Okay.
But if I select this, I wouldn't be able to tell which shapes I have already done. And so
because it's the same color.
It's the same color. So you can come up and change the color to white
in your attributes over there. Okay.
And the attribute, select all the ones you need to. I mean, this takes five seconds to select them all. I've got them all selected now. Turn off the display. Oh, I see. I did miss one. It's cheeky like that. Just so that guy, I believe. It's a good check. Make sure you got all the shapes. Turn this off again. So now I need to create the union region, right? But I would change this back to red because it's red. Create a union. We're going to select them first. Create a region. Union. Remove original or uncheck keep original. Highlights them all. That looks good. Left click, and now it's a red shape.
Okay.
And so again, just a quick quantity, walk concrete, select the in, make sure it highlights, and off to the left we go, or right, in this case, right.
And what we're seeing here is that after you set that start at terminator and you say that you want to use relative, those hold. You don't have to keep checking that. You just choose your label off of the quantities tab and the tool is ready to go. That's
right.
Nice. Okay.
With this setup, if you do this in the beginning, say at DAP plans, like I said, you can either do this every time, or if you have one file that you're maintaining, say this corner changed and my design changed, I come in and I turn the display on, and we're going to pretend the concrete, this shape now needs to go out to the end of I simply change the shape in the file, and it changes you don't have to reshape it unless it's super complex and you completely change the design. It's very editable by using the corner markers, and you can make it match. The advantage is, though, it gets the radius in there, and you don't have to fight with adding a radius to these shapes.
Nice. There's one more question that I see about pavement markings. This would be really helpful if they're using the generic place note command like I showed way earlier. Is there a way to keep those items defined by certain feature or by levels?
Just changing the level, right?
For example, with the line style. And so absolutely, what I would suggest is to, for just a second, can you change to the annotate tab there and choose that's the problem. The annotate tab doesn't display the attributes. Change to the Home tab, and let's just notice the attributes right now are set to an element template called walk concrete text and walk. So it's set to a text element. You can change any of these attributes. I don't have a button that says change to none, but you can manually change to none. So will you change to none on the element template? Where did you find none? Was it at the very top?
Yeah, up under templates.
Oh, under templates indented. There's none. Okay, so now there's no active template, but you'll notice that did not change the active level. So will you now move over and change the active level to something else? Now you have a choice. You could use those 10 right-click to rename levels, and you could rename them later. You could rename them beforehand. You could use any of the numbered levels. Use whatever you want. Doesn't matter. Pick a level. Okay, so traffic road striping text, great. Now you can also choose to not use the bi-level symbology. So you could say, I don't want to use, there's a line style up there. You can change the line style. You can change all of those. So that is how you would use the place note, the generic place note command. You would need to control your attributes. And be careful when you enter the place note command, because it covers up, the text editor is covering up your place note tool settings window, and you can't even see that it's not set up correctly. So choose place note instead of call out. There we go. Start with the terminator. And now this item 00 will measure a length of whatever it is that you select that's a line. So can you find a line
There
that
we go.
you did? Yep. Selecting
Hang
a
on.
line. Some
there we
kind of
go.
complex chain. Okay, there we go. And then place that. And then just exit out of the command, choose your element selection tool, and I'd like you to select the text, and you'll notice, it'll hover over it, notice it's on the active level. So that's the way the commands work when you choose them off of the MicroStation tabs. Annotate, they run generically, and they use the active attributes. What we're doing on the Quantities tab is we are modifying those active attributes every time you poke a button on the Quantities tab. In fact, that's true for just about every discipline ribbon workflow. When you go to those tabs, we're setting an element template, a level, line style, color, weight, all of that. So if you're going to use the generic one, pay attention to the attributes group on the Home tab. Yeah, awesome.
You can also cheat and change a previously set one. So if you don't know the note command under here, if you go to Quantities and you say I'm going to use the curb, standard curb, and
you could change the level right now, and it'll put it on whatever level
right, because it's not. Yeah. Just change the level of it instead. Delete that out because that.
Change the level before, you could change it after.
But you can just come right over to level and then pick your level here. So you can use the label lines and shapes and then change them afterward. Okay. So I'll just pick concrete drain. And then now it's on. Oh, I have to do it.
We noticed that sometimes the dimension doesn't change right away.
I think they did that one. Yeah, see there now it's changed. So you can label a bunch of them just using the pre-made tools and then change them afterwards. Either way, because I often forget,
you can edit
where they are.
You can edit the dumb text if it doesn't say what you want it to say. Yeah. Now, if you notice that there's something that you would like to use a lot and you think should be added, I would say please feel free to talk with your OpenX standards representative or your CAD standards representative to get things added, modified. But I think because we are planning to go to item types at some time in the future, there'll be a functional limit Right now we've got 42 levels, 21 lines and shapes, 21 lines and shapes texts. There's going to be kind of a functional limit where we get so many that it's difficult to use. But yeah,
these were the most prolific or the most common ones at the moment. So
this could be something that you might want to add to another tab. Another discipline might want to add something like this to a different tab other than the ODOT quantities. That's something that could happen as well. Thank you very much, Alissa, for
You're welcome.
Demonstrating how you could use this in a real world situation. I think that's very valuable. Thank you.
You're welcome.